What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and today I'm going to talk about my 5 most listened to albums, I think, in the history of my version of ever. Um, I had seen a couple people on YouTube making this video, and then I got a comment sort of pointing out that people on YouTube had been making this video and maybe requesting that I make it. And so then I asked a clarifying question, and then they kind of helped me. And I was like, oh, yeah, I think I can do this. And so the thing that got me, I was like, my 10 most listened to albums. I was like, what in the world could that possibly be? And then if you, in the reply, the person said like your comfort album. So like, oh. And then once I thought of my comfort albums, I was like, oh yeah, those are easily my 10 most listened to albums because I go to them when I need to just chill or when I need to escape or blah, blah, blah. And I came up with a list of 20. Like right off the bat, I got that comment. I was like, I'm just going to sit down and do this. I'm not going to overthink it. And I had 20 that I were convinced were my top 20. Then I eliminated a bunch. The most recent one on here is from the 90s? No, 2001. Most recent one on here is from 9/11, 2001. Happen to know it's 9/11 because, well, that was a big deal about when this album was released. And so I eliminated a bunch of stuff that was released after that album. So I had a bunch of stuff, and maybe I had 2 that were before 2011. I had 8 that were after 2011. I was like, purely because of time, those are probably listened to less than the ones I do have on this list. So I left off some I wanted to represent just because I wanted to represent. But anyways, these are my 10. I'm going to list them not in most listened to order, in just sort of maybe obscure to more like common order. Start off with the obscure ones and then just get more common. So I will number them 10 to 1, but that ranking is what I think is in terms of obscurity, even though I really only think one of them is an actually obscure band. The rest of them you probably or might have heard of, or I've even made videos of. I will say a couple that I did leave off that I want to give shout outs to. There is a metal band that there's very little information out there on them. Like I think there was like one of those, I don't even think there's like a bio online for them. It's called Medieval, Medeval. Some of the best, came out about 8 years ago. Some of the best sort of new wave of British metal, just metal, but made like in like 2010s. Absolutely fantastic album, self-titled. Love that thing. I've listened to that to death. I want to give that a shout out if there's any metal fans out there. Medieval is what it was called. Fantastic album. Also, Soccer Mommy's Color Theory and Lana Del Rey's Norman fucking Rockwell. I listen to way too much. But those albums put me in a really, really good, happy place. So I wanted to give those a shout out. I usually don't do shout outs, but I felt they're going to make the list eventually. They're just way too young at this point to be on this list. They're not yet adults, so they can't be on this list. So these are the adult most listened to albums. And these clearly I have listened to far too many times. But anyways, that's it. Yeah, let's do this. From 10 in obscurity to number 1 in what I think is popularity. I don't know. Who knows? Anyways, on to number 10. Number 10 is Spot 1019's Still ... Again. This was a local band out of San Francisco, Bay Area. I'm not sure if they're actually from San Francisco. In like the late 80s, early 90s when I was attending Cal. Saw them a whole bunch of times, saw them open up for some fantastic bands, Primus, Camper von Beethoven. Saw Primus was almost made this list. There is a show I was at the Full Moon Saloon back in 89 or 90. I think there's 3 songs on YouTube from that actual show. Can't see me in the audience. I guess it gives you a good sampling of what they sound like. But this album, it's like Captain Beefheart meets the Dead Milkmen, meet Frank Zappa, meet, I want to say Weird Al, but that's going to give it a whole weird vibe. But they got a sense of humor, but it's not a Weird Al sense of humor. Weird Al's a bad comparison. I'm going to throw that out the window. But meets Camper von Beethoven. Like it's a very quirky, rocky, fun, high energy, just weird band. And this album is absolutely perfect. It just great lyrics, great energy, self-referential jokes all the way. There's a song called Peter Tripodi, which is about the guitar player Peter Tripodi. Great song about Santa Claus. Santa Claus died on the cross for our sins. Man from the Future. Great song about UFOs. A great song about Ringo Starr. How to Dream About the Bacon. Yeah, 5 meals from one chicken. 5 meals from one chicken. Just high energy perfection. I don't think you can find the album anymore. I don't think it's not streaming anywhere. I've tried to look for it because all I own is a CD I bought at a show in like 88. And so I'm like, I listen to it all the time and I burn copies of it, right? Just because it's like, if it breaks, I will never have Spot 1019 music again. So it is probably my most prized possession in the world right now. If anybody out there knows of this band or knows where I can track down some more Spot 1019, just so I can make sure I don't lose touch with them. They had a couple other albums, which I still have on CD. I don't listen to as much, but this one, fantastic. Number 9 is a band out of Denmark, if I'm not mistaken. No, I think they're out of the Netherlands. Betty Serveert. Their debut album, Palomine, just this. I had moved to Texas in like 93, and an ex-girlfriend of mine, a good close friend of mine, moved a couple months later, and she moved to Austin. I'm in San Antonio, and I went up to like hang out with her for the weekend. And the first night I was there, as we were like passing out, she was like, "I'm gonna play you this album, Betty Serveert. It's like, I think you'll absolutely love it." And so fell asleep listening to this album and have just overplayed it since. It is indie rock. There's a Neil Young vibe. The guitar player for this band is a lot more, attacks a lot harder than Neil does, but he has that sort of raw, just sort of untrained Neil Young energy that is fantastic. They had a minor hit in the 90s with a song called Tomboy. I think The Kids Are All Right, not a Who cover. They had a song called The Kids Are All Right. Kids Are All Right. Kids Are All Right. I don't think that's what it was called. Yeah, that it was. Which also might have been a minor like college radio hit in the 90s. But they had 2 fantastic songs on here. A song called Brain Tag, about sort of, it's this very Neil Young, almost Cortez the Killer floating type song with lyrics about how like meeting somebody for the first time and feeling like they're just awakening a memory in your brain about how I've been here before. The song's so powerful. My wife and I put it on our wedding CD that we passed out to our guests. Just a fantastic song. The opening leg has this awesome sort of Neil Young jammy Pearl Jam guitar jam ending that's fantastic. The female singer, you can pick up that sort of Dutch accent every so often, but for the most part, she does a really good job. The rest of their catalog's pretty good. They have, I think, maybe 9 or 10 albums at this point, but this debut, fantastic. About, when was this? I heard it for the first time in like June, I think it was, or July. Went to New York City that same year and saw them at Irving Plaza. Is that the name of the venue? The Irving Plaza venue. Just blew the roof off that thing. One of the best live shows I've ever seen. Absolutely amazing. But anyways, fantastic. That's number 9. Number 8, Camper Van Beethoven's Key Lime Pie. Weekend this came out. For the next months, my roommate and I, Cal, Anatole, we would listen to Jack Ruby and Sweethearts over and over and over again, trying to like, this is pre-internet, right? So you can't bring up the lyrics, you can't research the lyrics, trying to figure out the truth. Sweethearts is about Ronald Reagan. Jack Ruby is about Jack Ruby. And so we were trying to figure out how much truth was in the lyrics, whether they were true stories. And we spent weeks, maybe months, listening to this, like almost every night. We shared a room, roommates, obviously. And so we would just play it over and over, CD player. But we didn't have a remote, so I had to lean over I was on the top bunk, he was on the other side of the room. I had to lean over and like keep going backwards. Did that a lot. And then when I was on Fish Tour in 94, I had one of the cassettes I brought the Key Lime Green cassette of this album. And one of my friends, Billy Graham, not the preacher, mind you, but a man offering his own brand of salvation. My fish buddy from 94 and 95 fell in love with the album, particularly the song All Her Favorite Fruit. And we, after many shows, if not every show on that tour, we would sell our sodas, sell our grilled cheese, wait until we were literally either kicked out of the parking lot if we were on the East Coast, or like, in the West Coast and in the Midwest, we're playing city venues like theaters and stuff like that downtown. When everybody was gone and we hit the road, almost the first thing we listened to was this. And we usually, at some point, the other people in the car would usually fall asleep at some point, because we were usually making kind of an epic drive afterwards, because Billy and I were guaranteed to be awake for just energy reasons. We would rewind and listen to All Our Favorite Fruit like 9, 10, 11 times, just over and over and over again, completely obsessed. And somehow I still have the tape. It never broke. So anyways, yeah, easily my number 8. Such a fantastic album. Number 7 is Wilco's Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. Every time I say the name of that album, I am convinced that it is Yankee Foxtrot Hotel, but it is not. It is Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. This is the one that came out on 9/11. The cover has like 2 towers on it. Bad timing all around for this band in the worst way possible. This is just, I think, it's a perfect album. The opening, the audacity to open up with like, I am trying to break your heart. I am trying. Why am I missing lyrics today? Just that, like, the way the music simulates him being just this drunken, messy fool because of this relationship, and the stumbling nature of the music, and just the whole picture he paints. And then to have that lead off the album, this really weird alternative indie rock, just sounds like nothing else. And then you close with Reservations, just this like list of things he has reservations about, but not reservations about you. Like all of this drama in the first song, but at the end it's like, yeah, but really, you're the one thing in the world I think I can rely on. And like everything in between just kind of like sets up just this. It's not a concept album per se, but I feel like the heartache of this relationship is just the thread that kind of winds itself through the entire album. So many fantastic songs on this. Jesus, etc. Such a beautiful ballad. The hard rockers on here. I'm the man who loves you. God, that's a fantastic song. Heavy Metal Drummer is a fun song live. War on War, Ashes of American Flags, Radio Cure, Camera, like the entire thing is just perfect song after perfect song. And it's one of those, like, when I want to sit down and listen to an album, I'm drawn to this. Like when I want that album experience, to me, this is one of those that's just, this has to be listened to in its entirety. It's just a perfect slice of music. But that's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Wilco's Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. Number 6 is ABC's The Lexicon of Love. I wanted to put this in number 1, though I know it's probably not as popular, probably more popular maybe than other stuff on this list, because this band was huge in the early 80s. I wanted to put it at number 1 because I do think it is the best pop album ever made, bar none. The lyrics are ridiculously over the top, but fun and catchy. The dance grooves are ridiculous. The production, yeah, there's some 80s drums, but I don't know, it works. It's perfectly sequenced. 2 hit songs off this. The Look of Love, which was pretty huge. Poison Arrow was pretty huge. But it is just an indulgent, over-the-top, hedonistically fun pop album. And it has so much swagger to it. And it just sounds so good. And there's horns, and there's incredible bass lines, and there's a little proggy section on a couple of the songs, like the 4th song on each side. The sequencing is drop dead fantastic. There's really only one ballad, but that ballad is just like maybe the highlight of the album. Just everything about this album is perfect. If you have not heard ABC's The Lexicon of Love, and you consider yourself a lover of true pop music, check that out. It is just... listen to it all the time. I remember we went to see My Morning Jacket. No, it wasn't My Morning Jacket because that was not till like, maybe it was. But we went to some show in I think it was My Morning Jacket in Houston. And we were driving back. It's just my wife and I, and she wanted me to like, and I was like, she wanted like, hey, play me something I've never heard before. We had like a two, it's like a 3 hour drive back. So I was like, ABC. She's like, ABC language, she knew The Look of Love. Like, yeah, man, drop that album and like every song. She's like, man, and like, I don't know, just winning somebody over to this album. I know it's doable. I know it's not just me. There are people out there. Like my wife is a huge like Far Side, not Far Side. Okay, I'm right. What is the Dead Prez? Big Dead Prez fan. We're going to see Jawbreaker because of her. So she brought in the punk, harder edge to this relationship than I originally had. Harder than my edge. But anyways, she loved the album. And it is cheesy AF, but it is great. Number 5 is Pleased to Meet Me, The Replacements. Yeah, just I don't even know what they are by this point. Like they've left their garage rock roots. It's a much more polished band. And Alex Chilton, like I have played that song so many times. It's one of those songs my wife is just like, ugh. That's how I know these should be on the list because anytime I play them, I get you're listening to this again. Alex Chilton, my falling in love with the song Alex Chilton, and the way Westerberg idolizes Alex Chilton is the way I feel about Paul Westerberg writing a song about Alex Chilton and my falling in love with the song Westerberg wrote. Does that make sense? Which he wrote about somebody else he fell in love with, Chilton from Big Star. Probably the best Big Star song Big Star never wrote, hands down. It's just a really good, it's pretty pop rock. It's pretty straightforward. It's definitely doesn't have their grungier, dirtier, sort of messier sound. It's a very polished album, but the polish is so good. I mean, there are so many classic ass songs on here, like the entire first side, the entire second side, the Skyway, little 2-minute ballad, most heartbreaking song ever, right? Minneapolis, or maybe it's St. Paul. They have those skyways, right? So you don't ever have to leave your buildings. You can just walk from building to building. And this guy, he's looking up and he falls in love with this woman who he sees goes across the skyway. He's waiting for the bus and she's going across, right? And he falls in love with her and he's like, I gotta go meet her. So one day he goes up and he like walks the skyway and he looks down and she's waiting at the bus stop where he usually is at. Most beautiful, heartbreaking song ever. And then that's followed by Can't Hardly Wait. Yeah, it was in that movie, but the song itself, just such an absolutely perfect pop song. Yeah, a fantastic album. It might not be their best, like I'll acknowledge that. Let It Be is pretty fantastic and does contain Left of the Dial, but I have listened to Pleased to Meet Me IOU, everything about this. Oh, what a great album. The Replacements, Pleased to Meet Me. That's number 5. Number 4 is The Lemonheads, Car Button Cloth. I really don't know why I fell in love with this album as hard as I fell in love with this album, but man, I bought this at a Tower Records in Emeryville, California, not too long before I moved to Texas, if I'm not mistaken. When did it come out? I'll find out when it came out. No, I had already moved to Texas, so I must have been visiting Texas because I bought this at a Tower Records in Emeryville, California. And I remember, I must have been visiting somebody. And I remember getting in the car, putting it in the CD player, and just immediately going, yeah! And I fell in love with it, and I've loved it ever since. It's Evan Dando at his best. Some of the outdoor type, a song about how I'll never be the outdoor type, just such a great Evan Dando type song. The wordplay on there is so fantastic. The opening 2 songs are just so good. Hospital is fantastic. There's a cover of Knoxville Girl, which is a great song about the guy who kills his girlfriend. One of the greatest songs, 6ix, like 7 the movie. I think the refrain is, we've got Gwyneth's head in the box. Spoiler alert, I guess. Just one of the greatest, just like a 2.5-minute burst of high rock energy. Secular Rockulage, a sort of ballad go heavy song that closes out, or heavy goes ballad song. So, One More Time, high energy. Come On Daddy, a song apparently written from the viewpoint of Liv Tyler to Steven Tyler. Odd little thing right there. Might have been used in a movie, right? If I'm not mistaken. No, it was using something. But anyways, yeah, I don't know why. It's just really good Lemonhead's pop rock of the 90s. Came out in 96. I've listened to it way, way, way too many times since then. Just a fantastic album. And it's got a great, really good drug reference lyrics on, I think it's the first two songs. And there's a really good line about, I have to look up this line because it makes me really happy. And of course, I should have looked it up beforehand. Yeah, there's too many songs. But anyways, it's a really good drug reference line in there about, sorry about dropping that lewd. It just seemed like the right thing to do. That is a fantastic lyric. That is a fantastic lyric. But anyways, that's my number 4, the Lemonhead's Card Button Cloth. Number 3, John Coltrane's A Love Supreme. When I first got into jazz, like really, really into jazz, in college, John Coltrane was the first rabbit hole I dove in head first. Probably listened to Love Supreme every day for a year, like my sophomore year of college. It's one of those. It's one of those like when you're dating and you bring somebody home, you drop in a Love Supreme and you just check their tolerance for good jazz. It's a great road trip album. It's a great album to wake up to. It's a great album if you're driving late at night and you're awake. If you need to stay awake, it's a great album to like, you can play a Love Supreme anywhere and it's just like, it just works. Almost put my favorite things on here because I also listen to my favorite things a lot, but I listen to Love Supreme much more than that. But there are a lot of artists that did not make this list that I listen to a lot. Like, there's no Dead on this list. There's no Zappa on this list. You know, bands that have a wide catalog, you know, none of those albums rise to make this list because I listen to all of their albums. Coltrane's one of those where this one is listened to so much that even though I listen to all of his stuff, he's got so many fantastic releases and they still keep coming. You're always kind of have time to discover some new Coltrane. This is one of those that even with all that, like I'll go listen to like, you know, the Village Vanguard release and I'll be like, oh, now I got to listen to Love Supreme again. Because I got to check back with like the original, with like the Platonic ideal of perfect jazz. I got to check back in with that thing. So yeah, an easy number 3, John Coltrane's A Love Supreme. Number 2 is Joni Mitchell's Blue. Joni Mitchell's Blue, like another perfect singer-songwriter album. Just every song on there is absolutely perfect. Blue, that whole half a song metaphor about a tattoo is brilliant. What else? California, fantastic. Everything. The last time I saw Richard, fantastic. The River, everything. There's not a bad song on here. Like, and Joni Mitchell is in top form. The lyrics are in top form, you know, sort of alternating between piano and acoustic guitar. You get a little bit of, like, it's just, not much happens, right? I mean, it's a pretty low-key affair, but the intensity of the lyrics, the mixing up between, you know, sort of piano and acoustic guitar stuff. Some of the songs are a little more jaunty than the others. But they're all just A Case of You. Oh my goodness. But one of the lyrics, I want to say it's The Last Time I Saw Richard, is probably one of like the best lyrics ever, right? I'm trying to remember what that lyric is right now. Blue is fantastic. Little Green, My Old Man. I mean, everything. Carrie. It's just a perfect album. And I've listened to it so much. It's another one of those late at night. I can listen to it in the morning. It gets me up on long drives. I like to revisit it. It's right. It's relatively short, right? I don't think it's that long of an album, 36 minutes. But yeah, it's just a perfect little album. Joni Mitchell's Blue. And my number 1 most listened to album, easily, by far, I think this one takes the cake. Because by the time, I think my mom bought it the week it came out and played it when I had no control or choice over what was happening on the stereo in the car or at house. Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks. It's a song an album I still am not tired of. Literally, 48 years later. Like, I am pretty sure my mom bought this. I was 5 the first time I heard this, that tracks with when it came out. So I'm pretty sure my mom bought this. I think I knew every lyric on every song by the time I was 10. But when I started having my own job and buying my own albums, I bought this 3 times over just so I can have my own copies of it. I have the box set. I've listened to it. I've loved it. I've turned other people onto it. I've fallen asleep to it. I've woken up into it. It's just, I've listened to this far more than any other album in the history of the world. Easily. Blood on the Tracks, Bob Dylan. And plus, it's a great album. Anyways, that's what I got. That's what they look like in writing right there. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's it. Mastodon almost made the list, but that album came out after 2001, so I was like, no Mastodon. Blue Oyster Cult, I divide my attention between too many artists. But I think that's it. I think most of these artists on here, it's like, I listen to all the replacements pretty evenly, but like the Lemonheads, that's kind of the only one I listen to. Betty Severe, well, maybe not. I'm trying to make generalizations that don't exist. But anyways, yeah, these are my 10 most listened to albums, or my most comfort food albums, or the ones I'm pretty sure I've listened to more than others. But anyways, I would love to know yours, because I promise you, if it's not an album I'm familiar with, and you're telling me you've listened to this album more than any other, I will check it out. That's why I'm doing this. Not only to like maybe turn people on to my music, but to get turned on to other people's music. But anyways, thanks for making it this far. Subscribe, like, share, and please comment. Let me know any of your most favorite or your most frequently listened to albums. It is an interesting topic. Music is awesome. Take care. Go listen to ABC's The Lexicon of Love. Find the joy. It's a pure joy album. Pure joy album. Peace. Talk to you later.